He's Eric.
And she's Kat.
And this is Pop Filter.
Welcome to Pop Filter, where we filter out the mainstream and give you all the geeky news, views, reviews, and interviews you can use. Today's topic
is conventions.
Yes, conventions, voice acting, how you get involved.
Yep.
Just basically, we're going to be talking about our journey into
Indeed.
where we got today and along the lines, giving you guys, you know, some stepping points that you guys can use.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
To survive the world.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
So
for you, how did you really start getting into voice acting?
Yeah, I was about to ask you, like, how you got involved in conventions. But, like, for me, voice acting and conventions kind of go hand in hand. Because I got involved in voice acting. I was living up in Seattle for a long time and just taking some elective theater classes in high school. Got bitten by the bug, as they say, and there was a Japanese voice actress, Rune Sasaki, who moved to Seattle and wanted to start teaching the Japanese method of anime voiceover. It's very different than our method in America, and I'll probably get into that in either later or in a different episode, because that's very intricate. But she was teaching us. I took the classes, and we had this little voiceover troupe that the very next convention in Seattle was SakuraCon. And that's our big anime convention. It's probably the biggest anime convention in the Pacific Northwest, and at some points third biggest in the country in some years.
Yeah.
And we were to be brought there, and we were to do a live demonstration where we would live voice act to clips on stage. Yeah. And that's the Japanese method, is they would have multiple people recording at a time, whereas in America we have one at a time. But we would go through these entire scenes just kind of live reading them as the scene is playing behind us on the monitors and trying to match the lip flaps as best as we can.
Is that a challenge, by the way? Quick question.
Very much so. We'll get into that. It's but we would go to SakuraCon and do a live demonstration, and she brought out as a special guest, because she was still connected with a lot of people in Japan, Ikue Otani, the voice actress of Pikachu. And that was
my
very
Pikachu!
first...
Oh my god!
Yeah. So I was not even a month into voice acting at this point, or like a couple months in, and I'm meeting one of my heroes already.
Wow!
Performing on stage with her, having dinner with her, and she's translating everything we're saying into Pika talk. It's the most adorable. And she's tiny too. She's like about Pikachu sized.
Oh my gosh! Pikachu's my favorite Pokemon, so.
Yep. I went with Let's Go Pikachu. Sorry.
Same Team Pikachu.
Team Pikachu. But yeah, that was so like very early on. I just dove headfirst into this world of voiceover and conventions, and I was not just a guest at a convention, but I was involved in it, and it was so great to just go so deep, so quick.
Yeah, and then look where you are today. So it's like when you look back at this stuff, it's like wow.
Yeah, I still have my signed Pikachu like right in front of me right now. Like I always keep it with me as a reminder of those days when I was just a starry-eyed little energetic child, and before I became this grizzled man, jaded veteran. And yeah, from there I kept going to conventions. We would perform sometimes, or I would just go as a guest. I would volunteer sometimes when I was still living in Seattle to be a liaison to the voice actors, their guest handler, and I would network that way. And after graduating college, I moved down and just it's my journey.
That's your journey. Well, my journey with YouTube is basically, as I said in the last podcast, it was all about with AMVs. That's what taught me all about editing. And from there, I said, I'm really good at editing. I could start a book trailer service. And a book trailer is, you know, when you promote a book for like picture book people or all these types of writers. And I did one picture book trailer for one of my mentors. And from there, all these people in this picture book community kept reaching out to me saying, wow, you're really a good editor. And mind you, I learned all this editing from being an AMV editor. So it was like basically the same thing, but like animating a lot of these picture book characters. So from doing the picture books, it was to doing the middle grade and to the like YA fiction. And I would make all these trailers for these authors. And then from there, I got hired to do a lot of production work. And then I figured, why don't I start doing like voiceovers in these picture books? So I did a lot of like narration for picture books, for the picture book trailers, and people really loved how I did that. And then from there I was like, okay, so people like my voice with this. They like what I'm able to narrate. So I said, what is really good with that? Well, reading out loud manga is something I love to do on YouTube, or doing these types of reviews. Like on the app Unlocked, I have my own show, which is Unlock the Lore, where I go between like the lines of the lore and say, okay, this character, what they're going through, that character, what they're going through, and then seeing what makes them who they are. So one of my first things on YouTube was doing manga reviews and anime reviews and reading things out for like Tokyo Ghoul and Attack on Titan, and people loved it. And then from there, people were like, why don't you do gaming, because you love stories and you love to be able to experience these stories from a different character's point of view. So then I got into gaming, and then from gaming...
Were you a gamer before? Or?
I've been playing, like, Spyro the Dragon was my first video game, and that was when I was like... Yeah. My Spyro onesie, if anyone has ever seen that on the channel. But from Spyro, it went from, like, the Pokemon games and everything. But, like, what I like to tell people, like, in the gaming community, it's like, when you really want to go into the nitty-gritty of the lore of these characters, treat these characters like they're your friends, you know? Like, treat them like they're real-life people. And I'm sure it's the same for you when you, like, voice a character.
To an extent.
If you like the character you're voicing.
Yeah, to an extent. There are some people that go pretty heavy into that.
But yeah,
saying, I know some people who own body pillows.
Oh yeah, that's one thing. Like, I've seen some interviews of people who have done that. Like, I don't want to go into that because that could spark some heated arguments. But
I'm sure, yeah.
But
just
like
did a House episode on that. I mean, not just. I mean, House was ended years ago, but I'm rewatching it now, and they had an episode on that I just watched.
I love that show.
That's so good.
But like, from doing like manga reviews, anime reviews, and then going to gaming, and then gaming, I'm going into doing more commentary on I'm doing RWBY right now, like the RWBY, you know RWBY?
Right.
Yeah, so
yeah.
from Rooster Teeth, and it all just adds up to doing what you love, because it went from me being this editor, this person just wanted to create, to me being able to take that and make that into a career on YouTube.
Right. And, oh man, that's one thing I kind of regret we didn't mention last podcast, and we can kind of give this a little harken back to that, is Rooster Teeth. Like, you know, they were starting out just doing these little videos, much like the AMV early days, these little comedy videos using a pre-existing engine, and now look at them. Now they're creating these...
Their own anime and everything.
Yeah, their own anime, their own productions.
Yep. And it's yeah, Team 4-Star, everybody, it's like you just wanna stick to it. You have a vision, you stick to that vision, and it can become something huge. Like, if I were to tell myself, like, 10 years ago that I'd be here doing this podcast, I wouldn't believe it.
Right.
But it's
the
like,
journey
you
is
stick
always
to
something small to something big.
Exactly.
It's always, yeah, the seed is planted. Yeah. I think I'm gonna keep saying this, like, you're gonna probably play a dangerous drinking game for, that's a topic for a future podcast. Like, anytime we say that. But, one thing that I always love, and again, I'm kind of a basic bee, so I'm sure some literary nuts are going to be like, oh, this again. The hero's journey. Mm-hmm. The monomyth. Yeah. The myth that Joseph Campbell lays out in The Hero with a Thousand Faces. You'll see that in anime, video games. Yep. And you'll see, it's the reason why you see that in every story, from like Luke Skywalker to Simba to Simba. It's all the same basic points.
Yep.
The reason is because it's our basic human journey. Mm-hmm. It's little pieces, little psychological pieces of our universal experience, things we all experience. Yep. So it's like you never know. Go on your own journey.
Yeah.
Go on your own journey.
Yeah. And you never know what something's going to lead to. I mean, like, with me, especially, it's like I did AMVs, which then led into me doing book trailers for people, from doing production and now doing YouTube and doing this podcast. And it's amazing to see how far I've come by just sticking to something I love, which, again, is AMVs.
You gotta find the call to action.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody listening finds their call to action, because it's an amazing journey to go on.
Yeah, and you're never too old to. Like I like to tell people, like on Twitter, I do this Dear Young Creators, where when people always ask me, like, by saying dear young creators, where I give creative advice to people, they say, do you mean young as in young? I'm like, no, I mean young at heart. I mean, like, if you have that fire in your heart and you could still create and if you have a vision, that's what I mean by young. So
yeah, I've seen some people do like reaction. Like, there was a great channel I saw where it was a dad and his son watching the DBZ Abridged episodes and reacting to it. Like, his son was showing his dad DBZ Abridged, and then it was a great bonding experience for them. And you wouldn't see this often, a guy that age watching this kind of stuff or reacting to it, but like, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you find a book, if you find something that you can connect with, go for it.
Yep, because it's like you never know what something's gonna lead to. Like, all your little breadcrumbs can lead into a huge bakery.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, going back on topic with conventions, it's like, I actually haven't been to many conventions, which is shocking, but I went to, like, New York Comic Con I usually go to, but the cosplay there. Yeah. Have you seen some cosplay? How intricate and amazing some of these cosplays are?
I was very fortunate to go to New York Comic Con a couple of years ago when we were on the rounds for One Punch Man, and it was absolutely bonkers. Like, I've been to San Diego Comic Con. Yeah. That's a little too crowded. Like, you don't get a chance to appreciate any of the cosplay because it's behind, like, 50 other people. Yeah. But New York Comic Con had this wide open space, and I just was able to look around and appreciate a lot of different things. Yeah. And
my first time going to New York Comic Con, I didn't get to, like, go up to him, but I saw Stan Lee, and God rest his soul, but I saw him there, and just how amazing of a presence it was, you know? Like, this man changed lives, and he was so humble. You want to know what's
very serendipitous about that?
What?
You want to know of some very interesting coincidence? I got to meet Stan Lee
really?
at New York Comic Con. When I was flying back from New York Comic Con, I was in the airport. I think it was JFK. And
what year? What year was it?
We were doing One Punch Man. So it was 2017, I want to say. 2016, 2017. But he was on the same flight. He was on the same flight as me going back to LAX.
And no, what's crazy is he was there, and that was the same year.
That was the same year? Oh my gosh.
I went there with a production company I was working for and doing interviews. Like, what if we, like, crossed paths? Like, that would have been so crazy.
I wouldn't have been surprised if we did at some point.
I know.
I was mostly going to all the wrestlers' booths, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want a picture with Ted DiBiase. I want a picture with Mick Foley.
I'm fanboying.
It's Jimmy Hart. It's the South of the South.
Oh my god.
It's the one thing I'll still mark out over. I'll still get fanboy over.
Yeah, because, like, no, but even the thing is like, with these cosplay, like, how people spend so much time on their cosplay outfits and everything, how they can do it, you know, how some people look exactly like the character. I'm like, how did you just do this?
Yeah, it's dangerous because I'm just like, if there's some characters that are a little too real looking, I'm just like, oh, hi.
Or the characters that you voice and you're like, oh my.
Oh my, yeah. Well, that's the thing, is, like, I have seen a lot more female cosplays for some of my characters than I have male cosplayers, and I think that's because
that's what's really good though. Like,
I know, but I think it's just kind of just because a lot of my characters are pretty effeminate. It's been a trend. I don't know if I need to start asking some casting directors about that and go, hey.
You should. Like, is there a reason?
Yeah. Because there was a trend of also getting fat characters earlier, and I'm just like, excuse me, hello?
It's like, like, what are you trying to say, casting directors? What are you trying to say?
But it's a little, okay, so, I mean, I'm single. I'll put that out there. So when I'm at a convention and I see a character, a particularly attractive person cosplaying as my character, it's confusing.
Oh my gosh. You'd be like, wait, you don't have my voice. You're supposed to have my voice. Oh my gosh. But no, like, some of the characters, like, somebody dressed up as from Transformers with Bumblebee, and I'm like, how are you the actual, like, I mean, I'm sure it's not the actual height, but it's huge. It's like 8 feet tall. I'm like, How are you not falling? You must be on like stilts or something. But,
it must be something like akin to what they do to Universal Studios, because they have Meet the Characters at Universal Studios Florida, the theme park, where they'll have these giant Transformers like Megatron, Optimus Prime, and Bumblebee, and they're like, I don't know if they're on stilts or like it's just a giant mech suit or something like that. Like I hope it's a mech suit, because
I mean, give me that.
Means we're one step closer. We're one step closer to having our own.
Yo, I heard that they're gonna make flying taxis.
Okay, I'm down.
I mean, like, they're gonna use it for, like, you know, just simple transportation, but they're on the right line of making flying taxis, which is then gonna be flying cars. How much time would we save in traffic, folks? How much time?
Coming from you, New York, me, LA, please make this a thing.
Make it a thing. I mean, how fun would it be just to be flying in your own little flying car? Come on, like, they do it in anime all the time, so why can't it be in real life? Like, come on. But, like...
New York Comic Con was... we're trying to get back on topic. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're very ADD, guys. You're going to expect a lot of... we're going to expect a lot of tangents in this. But, like, the early days of conventions, like I said, I went from being an attendee to being involved in panels to being a volunteer to now being a guest. And it's been such a weird... transition from one side of the autograph table to the other, because I used to be the one going up to get autographs from everybody. Yeah,
and now people are going to get autographs from you.
It's weird.
Weird. Do people like yell at you if your character does like something? Like it's if your character does something, do they yell at you like your character?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. And I'm floored by it sometimes, because we just recorded the first season of Seven Deadly Sins, and there are people who have read the manga, of course, so they're very far into the story, a lot further than I was,
and into the lore, because they know
into the lore. So all I had experience of was the first season, what we recorded. And people were coming up to me, and it's like, oh, you're the voice of Gowther, right? I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Like, hi, guys.
You're an a-hole! You're an absolute a-hole! Screw you! You messed everything up! And I'm just like, what the heck? What did I do?
You're all like, hi, guys, let's be friends. They're like, you son of a gun. Son of a gun.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here like,
it's like an anime scene when you're like shrinking and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah. And then I got to the second season and recorded that, and I'm just like, oh.
I get it now. I get it.
Yeah.
But then you use that as inspiration for what they said to you, and you're like,
no. I become a troll at that point in the booth. It's like, okay, so they think I'm an a-hole. Like, this is the moment where I get to be an a-hole. I'm going full a-hole. I'm going for it. Like,
oh my god.
I'm gonna break their freaking hearts.
Like, there you go. But that, like,
I'm a troll. I'm a relish in that opportunity.
And then, like, on Twitter, people will be like, wow, much a-holery right there.
Oh, no, I got texts, like, when the second season dropped, I got texts from all my friends and tweets all day. I'm just like, damn it, Gowther! I just sitting here laughing like, yeah.
But no, like, speaking... Because speaking of trolls and everything, you just use that as inspiration. You know, I always like to tell people, use haters as inspiration, or anyone who's being a troll, because it's like with haters, they are just secret admirers. They don't know how to actually be an admirer of your work. So it's like,
because why would they spend so much mental thought on you, so much time on you?
I know.
Like,
it's like, and when they like say like, I don't like how this is edited, and you're like, okay. Or like the big thing now, what I've noticed, which I think it is happening in a lot of communities too, it's all about, I like this, I like that, you should do it my way. So like,
unfortunately, the anime community has been very protective for a while, because it was such a niche community to start. Like, you had the staples of anime that you had, and I hate to pull from another YouTuber, but like I mentioned in the previous podcast, Giguk did a really good one on this, and one point he made of like how anime has changed is, if you wanted to call yourself an anime fan back in the day, boom, 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 do your homework. You watch Cowboy Bebop, you watch Full Metal Alchemist.
Exactly.
You watch these shows that everybody has seen that are the gateway into this, and then you can call yourself an anime fan. But nowadays, there's so much anime that people calling themselves anime fans, there's no guarantee they'll have any one show in common.
Exactly.
They'll even have a single show that they like in common, because it's
yeah.
so
See, like
different.
what I like to do is like talk about genre, because it's like if you're a fan of slice of life or comedy or thriller, so that's what, like, when people get on certain topics, they get so triggered, like, oh my god, why do you like that over that? But then if you talk about like the lore behind genre instead, it makes more sense, because then nobody really gets hurt, because it's talking about every anime that's under that genre.
Yeah.
But that's good, though, if you think about it, too, because this just means there's more conversation about it, and conversation is always key to keeping something mainstream. So when there's conversation about it, even if there's, like, heated arguments, it's still good, because that shows a sign that people are passionate about it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be, like I said, very different going forward, with a lot of Netflix involvement, with a lot of Sony involvement. And we're starting to see it, certainly, in the voiceover community. Like, that's changed in itself. The fact that we're just seeing so many more productions running simultaneously. Studios have been booked up.
Wow.
Absolutely. To the point where they've had to rent out other people's studios.
Wow.
To maintain capacity. And it's just been such a fascinating shift in the landscape. A paradigm shift. And I hope it continues. I hope it means more work for everybody, and I hope it means that more people can continue to get involved.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we got involved. I got involved just by being a fan, going to a convention, and then jumping into this new world, seeing my eyes opening to this new world, falling absolutely in love with it, and then finding my own path through it. I mean, you're all going to have to find your own path.
Exactly.
The one question we always get at conventions: how do I become a voice actor? You're always going to hear a different answer from everybody.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like everybody's journey is always different. You know, like when people are like, oh, I'm so inspired by this voice actor, it's like you could be inspired, but that doesn't mean that your same path is going to be the same as theirs.
It always starts with inspiration, though. Like, you always start with inspiration. So we got inspired by going to conventions or by checking out these AMVs. And went down the rabbit hole ourselves. And then
and then as me as a fledgling young voice actor trying to get into the biz, and you as the grizzly veteran. I mean, like, what's
some stuff.
Yeah, you've seen all this.
I've seen some stuff.
Any fun, like, extreme stories you want to share?
Oh my gosh.
Like any good memories, or like something that's just like, I mean, like your work on Toradora. I mean, like, was that life changing and everything?
Absolutely. I mean, Toradora is, and I'm sure my fans are sick of me talking about it, but it's still probably one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on.
Yeah.
And, well, it is one of my favorite projects I've ever worked on, and it's absolutely one of my favorite animes of all time.
Same.
And I only ever did like 2 lead roles before then. Haruyuki from Excel World and Alibaba from Magi. And Alibaba was kind of not the lead, but still. I wasn't really entrusted to anything this big that quickly. And to be involved with something that was just such a staple of the anime community. We recorded it, like, I think 4 years after it aired in Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the dub took 4 years compared to... Because now what I'm noticing is, like, I'm a big fan of Tokyo Ghoul, so... I watch it in both subbed and dubbed to see the difference, but now it's like on a weekly type of basis where it's like they release the new episodes right after the subbed. So back then it was like a 4-year wait for like the dub versus the sub?
Well, no. I mean, back then you could still get anime releasing within the year, but the thing is always who is licensing it, who is producing it. The licensors for Toradora was NIS America, who up until that point had never done an anime dub.
Yeah.
They would license the anime and release the subtitled versions, and they would dub their video game properties, but they had never done an anime dub up until that point.
Yeah.
So Toradora was their first, and again, that was just so flooring to me that they would entrust me to do their first dub, one that is such a staple, one that... I went on Reddit after getting cast and saw that they were still doing an annual Christmas rewatch club.
Wow.
Every year, where they would watch Toradora an episode a day in December and watch the Christmas episode on Christmas Eve.
That is so awesome. Like,
and it was 4 years on, and you don't see a lot of attention for that for shows, because people, ADD fans, anime fans are ADD.
Yeah.
we're so oversaturated with so many shows that to find something that sticks beyond the season is amazing, and to see that it's still going to this day. They just did their rewatch club last month.
Wow.
And
how many years has Toradora been out?
10.
And
had its 10th anniversary.
Oh my! Wow.
In October.
Wow.
So, again, to find something with that kind of retention, it's not something you get nowadays.
Yeah, I would really consider it one of the best slice of life animes out there.
Best rom-com, I feel.
Yeah, it touches on so many like raw topics too. So
and that's the thing is like when I got that, I was still new to LA, relatively few years in, new to voice acting ish. And I was going through a lot, and this is touching on a very personal aspect. I was going through a lot in my love life at that point of recording. I was dealing with a lot of heavy emotions that I saw paralleled in Toradora, so it was a very, very cathartic experience and very heavy experience to go through. Definitely, that's why I say it's one of my favorite experiences, because it was one that was most personal to me, I feel.
Yeah, and you connected with the character right away.
Oh, absolutely. And I still watch it to this day, and it's still one if I'll admit it's a good date anime if you have some special someone and you're just like, hey, you want to watch an anime? This is a good one. It's a little self-serving. It's a little narcissistic. But
the thing is though, is it weird to watch like your own dubbed animes? Like
it is. It very much is. Especially a lot of the earlier ones, because I've grown so much as an actor since then, and you're your own worst critic. And people will still praise some of the dubs of my early days, some of them, but even those ones that they praise, I'll just sit there. It's like, oh, I could have done that line differently. I could have. I know a different way to. I have different tactics to approach this. Yeah, but you learn as you grow. That's what's good. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and they chose, and that's the thing. Like, don't second guess yourself. They're the ones that chose you to be a part of that. So it's like casting directors know what they like. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, speaking of with the sub versus dub controversy. Oh my gosh. Well, that's the thing is, you mentioned like you watch subs and dubs. Yeah, and you like to compare them. I love being, because I'm the type of person that again is like, I love going into the nitty gritty of lore, and especially when you do it with sub versus dub, you see a little bit of a difference. I mean, like, you see that they change it to like sometimes match the lip flaps, and then they also change it to sometimes make it more modern for like American audiences. So sometimes they stick like right on point, and sometimes they don't. I mean, like I'm a big fan of Tokyo Ghoul, so like with the dub and the sub, my sister and I actually prefer the dub over the sub. Really? Yeah, which is like strange, because usually like I love dubbed anime. Like I love the anime Kids on a Slope. Have you ever heard of it? Yeah. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. You gotta watch it. Okay. Anime recommendation of the day. My to-watch list is growing. The dub is so perfect for it. I mean, like, how they envision the characters and everything, how they delivered everything. It is just on point. And my sister and I can watch Kids on a Slope like every day if we want to. Like, to this day. It is such that type of raw, emotional type of anime. And there's only 12 episodes. So that's another topic too, is when you only get 12 versus like 24 episodes. Versus 52. Again, landscape's changing, and that's because we're pumping out more anime than ever. Yeah. So, like, when people talk about sub versus dubbed, I mean, like, that triggers people, like, right away. Yeah. Because there's hardcore sub fans over hardcore dub fans. It's, like, two different communities. I will admit, it kind of triggers me. Not in that I'm on any one camp, but in that I don't think it should be a debate. Yeah. At all. No. The unfortunate thing is that we're all, as dub actors, we're always at the handicap that we're always going to be compared. No matter what, we're always compared to the original. Yeah. And even people going in who are avid dub fans, some of them will still go in listening to the original for reference, for a basis of things. And I get that, because this was written with the Japanese cultural perspective in mind. So when we translate a lot of things you mentioned into a more modern American sensibility, there are some things that just can't translate.
I know.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's
So-
like some subbed anime can't even be dubbed because like some things you can't really translate and it wouldn't make sense.
Like Bakemonogatari. Everybody's been wanting a Gatari dub for years, but with all the flashing text, with all the Japanese wordplay, the puns that they do. We did the Kizumonogatari audiobook for Vertical, and that was difficult in itself because, again, in print form, they rely even more heavily on wordplay. So translating those jokes just doesn't really land all the time.
Yeah. And with comedy, you gotta have the perfect timing. You gotta land on the joke right away, or it won't work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I know Konosuba just came out, and I went to see the dub yesterday and watched through all of it. It was hilarious. I loved it. And that's a good example of where the jokes land. It's very snappy, and they took some liberties to do it, not just following the exact cadence of the Japanese.
Yeah, and then what's good about that too is like you can have both to enjoy. I mean, you can have the subbed and then at the same time the dub, so the jokes could go on between both.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, like, I always say we don't need to be compared to anybody because you can't compare two Hamlets. You're not going to see the original Hamlet. We're not in the business to copy. We're in the business to act. And we're bringing our own tools and techniques to the table to create this character and bring them to life. So it's not going to be the exact same. Sorry, guys. And
I mean, like, I get it because as somebody who, like, loves to be able to explore the lore of things, like even with Tokyo Ghoul, how they changed the manga with the anime, and that's a totally different subject for another day. Like with anime adaptations to the manga, sometimes they change it completely. I mean, like with Black Butler, people love Black Butler, like, and the first season is not, half of it's not canon from the manga. They actually change it. A lot of it's filler. And, like, with Bleach, there's a lot of filler to it. And some people are like, oh, I don't like the fillers, like, which is, again, your cup of tea. But, like,
but that's more with the story than it does than anything else. And
because people who read, like, there's also the argument, anime watcher only, and then there's manga and, like, the veteran manga fans who want to go into the anime and be like, oh, it has to be exactly the same. And then there's the people just watching anime. So with Tokyo Ghoul Re, a lot of people didn't understand how that series really summed up because they didn't read the manga. But if you read the manga, you'll understand it more.
Right. Yeah, it's always going to be, you have the manga creator with his vision.
Yeah.
His or her vision. You have the anime producer with their vision. You have the adaptation with their vision. Like, it's always gonna translate differently, and it's always gonna be through the different mediums. You're gonna have differences, and you're gonna have to just. I'm like I said, you can't be so protective about it. The anime community is very protective about their content, but you always have to go in with open eyes.
Yeah. And appreciate both, because it's like, I always tell people, use manga as a guidebook to anime. Like, sometimes they skip certain scenes within manga, and people get, like, really triggered about, like, oh, they skipped that one classroom scene. That was so important. But you gotta understand, they're translating the manga, which is, like, usually maybe, I don't know, 12 pages or more per chapter, and then you got the anime, which is 30 minutes. So they're trying to shove in, like, 3 chapters per episode. So you gotta cut that down. You gotta take that into consideration, where it's like the creators of the anime sometimes can't fit in all the little quirks because it wouldn't, like you were saying, it wouldn't translate well, and also it wouldn't have time. They wouldn't have time to animate all that because they're on a budget.
Yeah, and same when we bring it over here is we can't translate everything exactly as is. I heard a comment about Toradora. It's like, why do they use so many, like, modern colloquialisms like OMG or stuff like that? It's like, well, because I'm pretty sure they do that in Japan as well. They use colloquialisms in their anime.
Yep.
It's just a different colloquialism, and when you read the subtitles, you're not really getting that because the subtitles is a very literal translation, and you can't. And if you don't know the language, you don't know what's shortened, what's more colloquial, what's more formal. So there's a whole different. There's a lot of tight-knit aspects to that.
Yeah, I mean, the writers of dubs have to go through a lot, like script writers. Like, they have to. I will
say we are very, very more meticulous about lip flaps than they are in Japan. If you watch anime and, like, actually watch the lip flaps other than the subtitles, you'll notice that they don't always land. Or sometimes they're flapping away and nothing's being said.
Now, my question to that, would they be able to edit that? Like, are they able to sometimes edit the lip flaps so they stick to the script, like in After Effects or something? Or they can't do that to the footage?
There is a YouTube video about that, why anime doesn't edit lip flaps. There have been a couple that could. I was involved in a production that never saw the light of day. It was, I think the director talked about it, but I don't know if I could talk about my involvement in it. But it was kind of a secondary dub to another show that was already being dubbed. But there was some matters that may have led us to take up the license.
Yeah.
And while we were dubbing it, they actually were able to edit the lip flaps, and it was the first and only time I've ever seen that happen.
Yeah, because I mean, even now, like in 2019, it's like when you see that, it's like you don't really see that many edits going in. But it's like it's really interesting to see like why they can't do that.
I think it may have to do with a lot with the transition to HD, and they
True.
can't really, it's a matter of color correcting, a matter of like it would probably look really bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it to how the lip flaps used to be, it's like it's improved. Like directors are much better at saying, okay, this like you have to do this at this point. Like it's improved a lot. Like if you compare like 2012 anime to now, it's like totally different.
Yeah, and we've got a whole slew of new people jumping into the industry who are very talented and who have been able to cut their teeth online through the communities that we've talked about before, and they've been able to just like really dive in head first and get involved and get some like there's some people who I didn't know like 2 years ago who are making huge waves now. It's just a matter of again putting yourself out there, finding your call to action, finding your dedication.
Yeah,
going for it.
And the thing is too is like taking advice from other like like you veteran voice actors.
I don't know if I'm the best for advice, but I do my best.
But like you said,
I'm still seeking advice out myself. That's the thing. Like as much as I call myself the veteran in this, it's only in this relationship here. Like, otherwise, I'm still cutting my teeth. I'm still trying to find my my footing in this industry and make it sustainable. But I've made some pretty good modest progress so far, and I'm really happy with that, with all the progress I've made.
And like, have you ever played as a character that you really didn't enjoy, like, or who you actually like? More to clarify that, like, who is completely the opposite of you?
Yeah. I probably can't talk about it right now. Actually, there's one that does come to mind that I can't talk about right now. I'm trying to think of any other. There's just some situations where I'm just like, come on, guys, really?
Yeah.
Like some lines that like there was I'll give an example that I think I can give. It's nothing too bad or anything. It's not a knock on anybody. But we were recording Dark Rose Valkyrie, and one of the characters played by my roommate Sarah Williams is a twin to another character. And born a female, but keeps identifying themselves as a male. But it's not in the sense of that they are confused about their gender identity. It's more about the sense that they want to please their father. So, considering gender identity is such a hot-button topic nowadays, we had to approach that very carefully. And there were certain lines that I was like, I don't know if I want to approach it this way, because it was very, attacking. It was like, no, you're not a male, you're a female. And that's the thing. It's like it says in that's why I keep using they instead of any kind of gender pronoun, because it's such a confusing aspect of this character. In their character's file, they enlisted writing down female, but again, in any interaction with them face to face, they identify as male. But then eventually that breaks down as, oh, I just do that for my father because my father wanted men, and eventually that facade drops. So again, though, we just wanted to approach this topic with sensitivity. Of course, we didn't want to say any, but there were some things that I was just like, okay, I have to figure out how to do this and not be not get too many emails
and
about
like,
it.
Dude, improvise. Like, can you improvise a lot? Like,
not so much. It depends on the director, or like especially when you're doing a translation, they really want to keep faithful. Yeah. They really want to, especially in video games, because you have to keep to a certain time code. You have to,
Yeah, because I mean, with video games, especially like when it's like mocap and everything, like it has to be perfectly timed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I've seen
absolutely.
some, like, interviews with Troy Baker, Nolan North. Like, when they do a lot of, like, the mocap for, like, Uncharted and, like, The Last of Us and everything, it's so, like, perfectly directed, but they have to do it so many different times to get, like, the perfect shot. Because, again, if the timing is off, then the delivery is off.
It's very much just like filming a movie. You know, doing different takes, taking it from different angles,
Yep.
and yeah.
Yeah, because it's an art, though. Like, voice acting's an art. Over the years, like, it's just become something that's... It could be, like, something that came from being in a play, or it could have been on from TV, or now a lot of people, like... especially with anime, it's like some people come directly from the anime community now doing video games.
Well, that's what I always like when I get asked the question, "How do I become a voice actor?" My go-to is always become an actor.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the voice. I hear people say, "Oh, I can do silly voices." That's great, and you can do
Yeah.
impersonations. That's great. What matters is what you can do with them. Can
Yep.
you do something new with them? Because people have heard those voices before.
Yeah.
They've heard the Porky Pig before. We already have a Porky Pig.
Yep.
So what can you do differently with it that can create a different character? And yeah, it's just about a matter of
How you... Like,
becoming an actor.
yeah, but, like, becoming the character, too, is, like,
Becoming the
really...
character, yeah.
Like, putting yourself in their shoes, you know? Like,
Yeah.
really just sitting there and be like, how do I become this character? What do they want? What are their wants? It's like, even if you
Yeah.
disagree with that character completely, it's like you still have to become them.
You would have to be able to answer the question of, okay, what would this character do in this
Yep.
situation? And it can be as simple as, okay, your character is at the video store. What video does... God, I'm old. What VHS does he rent? Your character's at a Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
I'm old. But yeah, it's about making those choices about the character outside of the voice.
Yeah.
The voice will come with the choices
Yep.
that you make outside of it. Don't focus on the voice, focus on the character.
Exactly.
And in that sense, if you want to become a voice actor, the greatest starting points, I always say, are theater and improv. You'll learn the presentation, projection, timing, everything you need that will translate well into the booth.
Take Eric's advice, friends. He's the grizzly veteran.
Oh, yeah.
We have to come...
in the front lines.
Oh, yeah. We have to come up with a character name for that.
Well, I mean, it's not very it was a character I used to want to do on YouTube.
Oh, God.
And it's not very PC, but I've seen some I'm just going to censor myself there. I don't know. We're going to keep this as PG-13 as possible on this podcast. I have a filthy mouth.
Indeed.
So, but it's called the I've Seen Some Stuff guy. And my roommate and I kind of came up with this character on the way back from Disneyland once.
Wow, it's like you come from the most happiest place on earth, and you're like,
Well, that's a funny thing.
Some
It's like,
stuff.
yeah, because we went on the It's a Small World ride, and that was enough to give us some Vietnam flashbacks. Some like,
Oh,
there
man.
was, so we created this character, and we were going to do like YouTube videos. Like each time he talks about a different topic that he's just recounting like it's a war story. Like, oh, I've been to conventions. Have you seen the kind of people at conventions? The body odor would knock out you like tear gas. And it came from Disneyland. It came from the It's a Small World ride because we saw a balloon we saw a puppet that looked like it was hanging itself from the balloon.
Oh
Like-
my, that poor puppet.
And we're just like, that poor guy didn't make it.
He was on the
He's
front
seen some stuff
lines.
too. Yeah. So
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's now you can have your character here to do that.
oh yeah. I'll have to clean him up a little bit.
PG, see some stuff, guy.
Yeah. Because we were gonna do one to like 4chan, and
Oh no.
that episode would have just started, faded it on him looking in the camera.
Yeah.
Nope, and just
Nope.
walk out.
Goodbye. Oh, poor Chan. But that's another topic for another day.
Oh, I don't even know if I want to broach that topic.
Oh my
for our
gosh.
safety, for the sake of our cyber safety, I don't even know if I want to go into that.
It's so bad. If you guys know what we're talking about, please proceed with caution. Proceed
Yes.
with caution.
Yes.
All right, so He's Eric.
She's Kat.
And this is Pop Filter.